A misty October morning, 1307, Paris. The streets are eerily silent. Church bells toll in the distance. Torches flicker against ancient stone walls. A line of armored knights in the livery of king. Philip IV marches through the narrow alleys. Their footsteps echo like war drums. They are not headed to battle, but to betrayal. Behind fortified doors across France, the once untouchable Knights Templar lie asleep, unaware that this dawn will become their darkest hour. The king's orders are merciless. Arrest every Templar. The door to the Templar commandery in Paris is kicked open. Soldiers pour inside, swords drawn. Brothers in white mantles adorned with red crosses are dragged from their beds, shackled and beaten. Some resist. Most are too shocked to fight. By sunrise, hundreds of knights are in chains. And soon, a horrifying truth emerges. The vaults that once held the Templars' vast treasure, gold, silver, relics, documents, are suddenly empty. Where did it go? Who moved it? And how could such a fortune vanish overnight? The rumor spreads like wildfire. The Templars were warned. Someone loyal slipped word to the Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, giving the knights just enough time to whisk their treasure away into the night. Eyewitnesses claimed they saw carts, laden with chests, roll out of Paris days before the arrests. Others whisper ships quietly leaving La Rochelle, bound for destinations unknown. As the prisoners rot in dungeons, enduring torture and false confessions, one question echoes through history. Did the Templars hide their treasure? Or was it all just a legend born from greed and fear? The scene closes on King Philip himself, pacing in his palace. His coffers are empty, his debts crushing. He had gambled everything on seizing Templar wealth. But when his men reported back, when he heard the treasure was gone, his fury shook the throne. What followed was not just the fall of an order, but the birth of one of the greatest mysteries of all time. By the time the sun had fully risen on October 13th, 1307, the Knights Templar, an order that had once stood as a shield of Christendom, were finished. Their leaders shackled, their commanderies raided, their reputation dragged to the mud by accusations of heresy and blasphemy. Yet the strangest detail of all was not their arrests, nor the confessions wrung out by iron and fire. It was the silence of the vaults. For nearly 2 centuries, the Templars had amassed a fortune unlike any the world had ever seen. Pilgrims trusted them with their savings. Monarchs borrowed from their coffers, and merchants used their letters of credit to traverse the medieval world with unprecedented safety. Some say the Templars invented the foundations of modern banking. Their wealth wasn't merely gold. It was power, liquidity, leverage. And yet, on that fateful morning, the treasure was gone. Not a single gold coin, not a single reliquary, not a single sacred artifact remained where Philip's men expected it. So the whispers began. Whispers of wagons rolling out of the Paris temple under the cover of darkness. Whispers of hidden tunnels leading from the commandery to the River Seine, where barges waited in silence. Whispers of an organized evacuation, as if the Templars had known for weeks what was coming. The strongest rumor of all spoke of the western coast, of the port city of La Rochelle. There, the Templars were said to have kept a fleet of ships, swift, sturdy, and loyal only to them. Days before the mass arrests, locals recalled seeing heavily loaded carts arrive at the docks. Cargo was transferred in the dead of night, and then, just as dawn broke, sails unfurled. A fleet departed westward, vanishing into the horizon, never to be seen again. Where did those ships go? England? Portugal? Scotland? Across the Atlantic itself? No one knows for certain. But the absence of the treasure was the beginning of something larger. A centuries-long mystery that transformed the Templars from fallen warriors into legends of hidden gold, buried secrets, and forbidden knowledge. King Philip had crushed the order, yes, but he had also created a myth that would outlive him, outlive his dynasty, and echo through every era that came after. Because when you erase men, you erase their bodies. But when you fail to seize their gold, you feed their ghost. And the ghost of the Templars' lost treasure has haunted history ever since. La Rochelle, a windswept port on the western coast of France. In the early 14th century, it was a vital stronghold for the Knights Templar, both fortress and harbor, where their influence stretched from land to sea. Stone towers overlooked the Atlantic, and within its walls the order kept something more valuable than swords or armor: a fleet. Chroniclers of the time say little about these ships, but whispers endured. Fast vessels, built not for lumbering trade but for speed and discretion. They were the arteries of the Templars' financial empire, carrying coin, documents, and sacred relics across Christendom. When the hammer fell on October 13th, 1307, it is here in La Rochelle that many believe the final act of the Templar drama unfolded. Locals spoke of wagons arriving under cover of night, laden with heavy chests guarded by grim-faced knights. No torches lit the way. Only the pale light of the moon caught glimpses of wheels, iron fittings, and the strained backs of horses as they pulled their cargo toward the docks. Then, quietly, without fanfare, the chests were loaded aboard waiting ships. Within hours, sails were raised, ropes cut loose, and the fleet vanished into the Atlantic fog. Where they went next remains one of history's great enigmas. Some say England, where the Templars had powerful allies and sympathetic lords. Others point to Portugal, a nation that would later absorb many former knights into a new order, the Order of Christ, under the watchful eye of King Denis. There, Templar knowledge and wealth may have been repurposed to fuel Portugal's rise as a naval power. And then there are the darker, more tantalizing theories. Some argue that the ships pressed northward toward Scotland, where Robert the Bruce, excommunicated by the Pope, stood as a natural ally to outlawed Templars. At Bannockburn in 1314, just 7 years after the arrests, legends tell a mysterious armored horseman riding into battle at a critical moment, turning the tide in Scotland's favor. Were they remnants of the Templar fleet, hiding in plain sight, lending their steel to a fellow outcast? Yet another theory reaches even farther, across an ocean barely imagined by Europeans at the time. Could the Templar fleet have sailed westward, toward lands whisper of in Viking sagas? If so, then the Templars may have carried their treasure to a world uncharted, planting the seeds of the Oak Island mystery centuries before Columbus ever touched American soil. What is undeniable is this: King Philip's agents scoured La Rochelle in the aftermath of the arrests. They found no ships, no treasure, no trace of where the Order's wealth had gone. The fleet had simply evaporated, as though swallowed by the sea itself. The legend of La Rochelle would grow over centuries, pass from chronicler to historian to treasure hunter. To some, it is the starting point of every wild tale about lost gold, hidden relics, and the Holy Grail itself. To others, it is a symbol of how power slips through the fingers of kings who believe they can control fate. The treasure was gone, but its trail, like the fleet, was only just beginning. The year is 1314. 7 years have passed since the Great Purge of the Templars. Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master, has been burned at the stake on an island in the Seine, cursing both Pope and King with his final breath. Across France, the Order's lands have been confiscated, their brothers imprisoned, executed, or forced to fade into obscurity. To most of Christendom, the Templars are finished. But in Scotland, the story takes a different turn. At that time, Scotland stood in rebellion against English domination. Robert the Bruce, outlawed and excommunicated by the Pope for his defiance, was waging a desperate struggle to secure his crown. He had few friends, fewer allies, and the weight of an empire pressing down upon him. And then came the Battle of Bannockburn. For 2 days, in June of 1314, Scottish and English armies clashed on the fields near Stirling. The English, heavily armed and numerically superior, seemed destined for victory. Yet at the critical moment, when Bruce's lines began to falter, legends speak of a sudden, thunderous charge. A band of armored knights, their banners concealed, their faces hidden by helms, rode into battle with uncanny precision. Their charge shattered English morale. Panic spread, and the Scots seized their chance. Against all odds, Robert the Bruce triumphed. Who were these mysterious horsemen? Chroniclers offer no definitive answer, but whispers endure that they were remnants of the Knights Templar, men who had escaped France aboard the fleet from La Rochelle. Outlaws themselves, they found refuge in a land already condemned by Rome. Bound by their warrior's oath, they lent their steel to Bruce, not for wealth, but for survival, for the chance to fight once more with honor. The theory gained strength from Scotland's history after Bannockburn. Suddenly, Robert the Bruce not only secured his throne, but also forged a legacy of independence. Some historians claim he offered sanctuary to exiled Templars, allowing them to settle in Scottish soil. Their traditions may have mingled with local brotherhoods, giving birth to secret societies that would echo across centuries. Societies like the Freemasons, who later wove Templar symbols into their rites and myths. Skeptics dismiss the tale. They argue that the mysterious horsemen at Bannockburn were nothing more than enthusiastic Scottish reinforcements, their arrival magnified into legend by desperate men and later romantic chroniclers. Yet the timing is haunting. The Templar fleet vanished in 1307. 7 years later, hidden knights appear on a battlefield where their presence turns the tide. Coincidence or proof? In the shadow of Bannockburn, the treasure story evolves. It is no longer just about gold or relics. It becomes about survival, about transformation. The Templars may have lost their order, but in Scotland, they may have found rebirth. Their treasure, if it came north, was not only wealth. It was knowledge, rituals, and symbols that would ripple into the secret architecture of European history. The question is not simply whether the Templars fought at Bannockburn, but what else they might have carried with them into exile. Did they bring relics? The Ark? The Grail? Or was their true treasure the continuity of their brotherhood? Hidden in plain sight, thriving under new names, waiting for the centuries to pass before rising again?